Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Mari, and I'm here with my husband, Jim. And this is the first episode of a little mini series that we're going to be doing concerning data centers and infrastructure projects, specifically in rural America. In this first episode, what we're going to do is we're going to cover our own experience with a major infrastructure project for our school district and the city of Llano, including why we did the project, the partnerships that we formed to get it done, and how it benefits the community even today, 5 years after the project was completed. We're going to give you several headlines that led us to believe that our experiences are relevant to what is going on with data centers all across America. We will also be discussing the 3 episodes that will follow this and the information we intend to share with you in those episodes. So, this is a little different. It's not our usual format, but we really think it's important, especially if you are a city manager or a city or county leader, even if you're an administrator at a school district. And if you're not one of those people, but you are one of our regular listeners, we want you to share these episodes, this one and the ones to follow, with those people. So, we're starting this series because we are from a rural community. And we know firsthand, especially Jim knows firsthand, what it's like when big tech agendas clash with local needs. We've lived through the pressure, the less than open negotiating tactics, and the frustration of really just feeling outgunned. We've also learned how to navigate some of these challenges, how to work with local and state agencies, and how to turn complex infrastructure headaches into net positive outcomes for our town. Jim, are you a lawyer?
Not last time I checked. Thought about it.
I'm not a lawyer either. And we don't have a staff that is doing all of this research. Jim is a staff of 1.
I'm the research department.
Jim is the research department. So think of this episode and the episodes to follow as a starting point, because we have spent years living through infrastructure and construction nightmares in this town. Jim's done the research that most town leaders simply don't have the time to do. So we're focusing this series specifically on data centers because they are an immediate concern for small towns across the United States. So whether you are dealing with a data center right now, or maybe you're dealing with a high-speed internet expansion project, electrical utility projects, for us, the goal is always the same. We want to move from reacting to whatever comes up with we're just going to say no, and the problem's going to go away. We're going to move from that mindset to a proactive position of strength and problem solving. We're going to share our suggested approach, Jim's research, and our hard-earned experience to give you a solid place to start your own negotiations, because they are probably going to be coming to your town if you are in rural America. So Jim, let's start with your fiber project.
Jim's Fiber Project.
Jim's Fiber
That's
Project.
We even named it Jim's Fiber. The townspeople named it Jim's Fiber.
Jim's Fiber. We call them Jim's poles that line one of our highways that lead all the way from Llano into a bigger city. So let's talk about that for a second. The fiber project was not one organization that just showed up and said, hey, we're going to build a line into Llano. It wasn't just one. It was years of partnerships that you had to form, not only between the school district, the Lower Colorado River Authority, the city of Llano. You had state and federal funding agencies that you were dealing with all the time, electric cooperatives that you were dealing with, contractors, internet service providers. Sorry, I almost said ISPs, but for y'all who don't know what an ISP is, internet service providers. And then, of course, the actual data center operators that were in the city. Each group controlled its own little different piece. You had your your funding, you had the poles that had to go in, you had right of ways that had to be negotiated or talked about to go across people's property. You had your construction crews, you had the transport of, the service on the actual lines. And of course, that final connection piece, which was literally in a closet in Austin.
And a data center.
At a data center on a rack. You even know exactly where it plugs in at.
Yes, I even had to find out that you can't call it, some people call them rooms and some people call them closets. I was calling it a closet, and apparently
It's a room,
I'm
according
supposed
to
to
them.
call it a room.
So at one point, I can remember you had a funding deadline, like to get the funds from either the federal or the state
Get
level.
some of the matching funds, yes.
Yeah, like matching funds. There was a deadline that was very quickly approaching. And we drove the fiber route outside of Llano, over 14 miles of it. And I can remember having the conversation because you were a little bit freaked out because there was these long stretches where it wasn't finished yet. And there was fiber that was sagging into the tops of some trees. There were some poles that were still laying on the ground. And you were so close to that funding deadline that you were like, this could kill the project.
Or kill our ability to pay for it.
Why would that kill the project?
Because the funding that we arranged had specific criteria for meeting the funding requirements. And if we didn't meet them, the school district didn't have the money.
So one of those small entities, because we talked about how it takes more than just one company.
Every piece has to fit.
Every piece has to fit. And somebody had not held up their end of the bargain.
They were behind schedule.
They were behind schedule.
For a really dumb reason.
What did you have to do? You had to rely on the relationships that you had built with all of these other partners. I can remember you spending hours on the phone talking to these people and basically getting permits and working through insurance issues and just, pushing back schedules. And every single piece had to be assembled one little piece at a time. You were one of the people who basically cared, even though you weren't getting paid.
I didn't get paid extra for working over the Christmas holidays, trying to get on the phones, trying to get things arranged.
Right. So the result of this fiber project that you did, and all of these moving parts that you allowed to you figured out how to get them all to come together, and you figured out how to make it work. It has actually not just meant faster service for internet speeds and stuff here in Llano. It's also like a long-term fiber infrastructure that not just our district, who partly owns it, because we did pay for part of it.
We have long-term leases on others.
And long-term leases, but also the city and, our city hospital, even our people who live in our city are benefiting. And we're still building on this fiber project even today, 5 years later.
Yeah, because some of the relationships we built, and we had even local judges involved, and they were building. We built these relationships with these different people. That we have businesses that moved to Llano because of this.
Right.
What happened? So it's been a win-win for everybody.
We have
reliable internet service too.
Yes, we have very reliable internet service.
We do.
But the point that we're trying to make is that no matter whether you're talking about miles of fiber, or you're talking about the construction of a data center, rural infrastructure rarely arrives as a complete commercial solution. It is assembled through local leadership, public funding, technical partners, utility companies, and then the people who are willing to keep the project moving when there's not a single organization that actually controls the whole thing.
And even when a big company's coming in and they're saying they're going to pay a lot of the bills, all these things that you go through still require these local partnerships. You can't just strong arm your way in. We're going to talk a lot about that.
And I think you also run into a problem of if somebody comes in and says, well, we'll provide a project manager to manage the whole project, you have to okay, where's that project manager going to be biased?
You really want someone locally with the heart and passion in it. Someone with a local standing.
Right. Which is why, even though you were never hired as a project manager, it was a passion project for you because as a technology director at a district, you knew what it was like not to have fast, reliable internet service for testing and for the kids.
I'd spent decades trying to solve the problem, and I'd solved it over time during to using different pieces of technology, wireless technology versus not.
You had done a lot of patchwork.
I had, and you and I, we went to the state capitol and we testified before a subcommittee on rural broadband. We did a lot of different things. We took our kids with us when we went down there, so there was a lot of stuff that went into it. But
It was definitely a passion project.
at the end of the day, these anchors that, like, the school district was an anchor, the hospital is an anchor, the businesses. That's how you anchor some of these projects in a way, because when it benefits them, it benefits the whole community because they're already ingrained in the community in a large way anyway.
That is correct. So before we talk about what's going to be in our first episode, because as I said, we're doing this as like a mini series, which isn't our normal way to do things, but there's
to put into one.
so much information that
And we
you
want
have
to share.
collected.
We want to share a lot of, even some of it we can't go over. We're still going to share. So
I agree. Before we actually talk about that, I want you, Jim, that's Jim, to read some of the headlines, okay? So there were some headlines that really caught your attention.
I had a lot.
And it made you really dig into this research. We did an episode a few weeks ago about data centers. And because of you like pulled that thread for that first episode, and now all of a sudden you have gone down that rabbit hole and you have really started to dig into it. So let's talk about those headlines that made you really, really interested in this.
Okay, I liked a lot of these. I had so many headlines, and you'll see in a minute. We'll talk about that in a minute, but most of them are not positive headlines. Missouri town fires half its city council over data center deal.
Okay.
Inside the Luddite Festival, harnessing Gen Z's rage against big tech. That's not data center specific. And if you don't know what a Luddite is, look that up. Meta data center discharges suspended. Water discharges suspended after contaminating the city's reclamation water supply with bacterium. I am tongue-tied over that one. There was a lot to
I
that.
say step back. I will edit that out. So
No, you don't need to edit it.
Tongue-tied is good?
I'm going to let you read that one.
Okay. Meta data center water discharges are suspended after contaminating the city's reclamation water supply with bacterium.
That was a big headline.
That was a very
It was
big
probably
headline.
big words. Largest data center project ever proposed is officially dead.
Wonder why they killed it.
EHS, I guess it Department of Homeland Security. Government bracing for nationwide anti-AI riots, preparing to crack down on dissent.
So people are, you're having a hard time.
Dissent. Continue.
Rural Americans say they're worried AI data centers will drain their wallets.
Electricity demand is set to grow faster than the global economy amid the AI boom. That's a big one. We're going to spend some time.
And here's one that we have personal experience with.
We do, actually.
Proposed data center would pull from lake that supplies most of Fort Worth's water.
We have some. Our last one we did about data center, we had some people that live up there. Police remove disorderly man from Amazon data center hearing in Klein. I don't know where Klein is, but I like
Klein, Texas. People are getting pissed about
I
it.
think that's in Texas. I think that Klein might be in Oregon.
Residents sue Microsoft over noise from Mount Pleasant data center. Guess who lives in Mount Pleasant?
Is that Mount Pleasant, Texas, or is that
Mount Pleasant, Texas is where my aunt lives.
I know, but I'm not sure that's where that data center is. I'll have to look that one up too. I just like the headline. But anyway, I think that was my last headline.
So those are the headlines. Now,
the big question.
They're negative.
All of them. The question is, do these projects have to have such a negative perception and potentially have a negative impact on the rural community? I think there's a long history of the big tech companies, and before big tech, it was other companies coming into rural areas and steamrolling everything. I mean, we talked about that in the last one. Eminent domain is all about is coming in and seizing land for the public good. There are some things that it's difficult not to, you're going to irritate somebody. I get that. But I think that it's gotten out of hand and it doesn't have to.
Okay.
And we saw little pieces of that when we were putting in, we did 2 different fiber projects and we saw some little pieces of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about how, even though fiber is different, it's not like a data center, it's generally perceived as positive because you're bringing in the fiber.
But you're still having to deal with the right of ways. You're having to deal
and
with
not everybody likes the idea. So there was some issues that we had to deal with, including irritating another big company.
Correct.
Because they didn't like us doing it where they were. Point is that it doesn't have to be all negative, but both sides have to be willing to discuss how to make it positive. And we're going to talk about that.
I agree. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. after this episode, our episode 1 is going to be an introduction to data centers. Now, what we're going to actually cover is what is a data center and who is it that typically builds that data center. We're going to cover where they are, an estimate of how many there are right now, and how many tech industries want to build them and why. So, like, how many are they talking about here, people? Are they talking about 3 or 4 more data centers in the state of Texas? Or are they talking about
Oh, we're talking this is the numbers I'm going to give you are actually
thousands?
global. I'm going to give you some
Some
U.S.
global
based and
numbers.
global numbers.
Sounds good. So we want to also understand why is it that industry needs this data center, why people oppose the data centers, and the impact it's going to have on power and water and just space. In episode 2, that's when we're going to start talking about the legal landscape. Now, as I said previously, I'm not an attorney. Jim is not an attorney, but we are going to pull in a lot of these legal resources that are vetted that is going to focus on the legal aspects of data center construction.
Because we're not lawyers, these are suggested places to start.
Correct.
Where I do the research, I vet it the best I can, but I'm not a lawyer. And some of these, there's not clear law. There's not, I mean, case law implies that there's precedent
This is
that's been
new.
set. The idea of building things in rural areas, and kind of moving in, that's not new. But what these purposes, the purpose and how they're classified and the laws that surround them, that is new. And the federal, state, and local laws are incomplete. And
Yes, they are. So we're going to cover those applicable federal, state, and local laws. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to use Llano as a case study. Even though Llano has not been like on a short list and we're not talking that a data center is coming to our backyard, but because we live here, this is the best place for us to use as a case study about what if we got that phone call at the city saying, hey, we want to build a very large data center right in your backyard. So the discussion's not going to address why simply attempting to block a project might not be viable or successful as a strategy for a municipality.
So again, the caveat is I've done a lot of research and I'm going to vet as much of it as I can. But I'm really hoping this is a good starting point for people because I do a lot of research. I like doing research.
I think a lot of the mindset, I know that whenever I'm on the board of directors for several little community things, and a lot of the mindset is, well, we're just going to say no.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that you and I have talked about and some of the laws that I know that you've already uncovered is sometimes just saying no is not an option.
That's correct.
So we will cover that in episode 2. Now, in episode 3, we're going to talk about being proactive, not reactive, and how you can start securing benefits if this is going to happen in your town. How can it benefit you? It's going to be the final episode that's going to wrap up the series by focusing on preparing for those conversations. Because if you are in small town America, you need to start being prepared. It's going to detail the specific steps and questions that your town leaders need to address to be proactive. The focus is going to be on how to negotiate effectively to ensure that a data center project results in a net positive experience for your community and the constituents in your community. It's going to include examples that we have found from other cities and even other countries, one of which is now considered a gold standard for a data center, and how this can benefit your town. Then we're also going to have a final discussion of what we did about the fiber that came into Llano and what those long-term benefits have
And some
been.
of the mistakes we made. That preparation piece does require you to understand better some of the minutia, and if you don't understand it, to listen to the people who do.
That is correct.
We had some issues with that because you are talking about politics, and politics. A lot of people are standing in line to take credit for the projects, and sometimes things get pushed through without the proper level of thought put into them. And then, of course, there's some people that want to overanalyze it. So you got to kind of balance a lot of different competing interests to make it work.
So we're going to share the mistakes and the
mostly positives. I feel like ours turned out positive.
The lessons that you learned specifically by bringing fiber
Well, it was an infrastructure project. I
Hmm.
mean, we're still working on infrastructure projects. I've been doing this now for 21 years, and we still have infrastructure issues. We've had electrical infrastructure problems that we've had to work with the city on. We've had the data, the large data pipe we needed. We've had, and a lot of it in my mind is always about, it's not where I am today. It's where do I want to be in 5 years or 10
Correct.
years. So long-term plans become complicated when you have politicians that are elected for 1 or 2 years. They don't tend, it's sometimes hard to get people to the table that want to think long term.
I think in small town politics, a lot of times somebody is elected to a position or even runs for a position because of a very specific agenda that they have. And sometimes that agenda isn't a long term agenda.
Sometimes they run because nobody else wants to.
That's true. Unopposed, unopposed,
Unopposed,
unopposed.
unopposed.
So, my name is Mari. I'm here with my husband, Jim. We truly hope that you guys tune in for our very first episode this next week about what is a data center. Make sure you share that this information is going to be coming up because we really think that we can help you get a head start in preparing for a data center to move in to your backyard.